So why don't we go ahead and get started with our check-in? See, why don't we? I'll start with Niru and see how the homework practice went, gratitude, or anything you'd like to bring up to the group about mindfulness.
I did my homework.
She did her homework. She got a notebook.
Yeah, I got this. So I started working with the wellness coach, and she had recommended it because I told her I had done like gratitude stuff in the past. Like Soup and I had done it together. I think I don't think we did it on the like our mom's side of the family chat, but I think we did it on dad's side of the family chat where we all listed like things we were grateful for. And I just found it hard to do like day after day after day. So I like this journal because it prompts you. And it's a day and night. So in daytime, it says, like, I am grateful for what would make today great, and then a daily affirmation. And that's you're supposed to write like as soon as you wake up. And then at night, it's highlights of the day and what did I learn today. But it also has, oh, there's Tara Brach.
Oh
It
wow,
says
what does it say?
there's something wonderfully bold and liberating about saying yes to our entire imperfect and messy life. So there's really great quotes and like there's like a challenge, a weekly challenge. I think today's or yesterday weekly challenge for today was write a text, email, or letter to someone you truly care about. So anyway, I still do find it hard to like come up with like all three of this or all three of that, but it's a great way of framing things, I think, to start your day, and a great way of reframing and putting things in perspective at the end of your day. And I really like the quotes. I think it's motivating. But if anyone's interested, I can send you guys, take a picture of it so you have some idea if you want to try it on your own. Just a way to keep it regular if you guys are interested.
And how was your experience doing it? What
Yeah,
did
so I
you
think it was
sense?
it was a great way to, frame things in the morning to sort of like bring some intention into the day, and then to sort of like recap it at the end. So I feel like a lot of times it's like one day blends into the next, and it's like, whoa, what even happened here?
Sure.
I think it's a really great way to like say it was today. I know
Yeah.
that sounds silly to say, but like it's like there's a beginning and an end to the day, and that actually is a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mom always says this, it like kind of brings it like an inventory to your day,
Yeah, inventory is a good way to put
so
it too.
um well good, I'm glad. Good job.
Thank you.
Gold star.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess well I'll share my experience. I kind of did it a little bit differently this time. I think in the instructions, I kind of said that, either you could list something, write it down, and I'm just curious to see the various experiences that we have. But I kind of just embodied it, just to feel like this is, it's gonna sound silly, but I kind of embodied it like how Diljit Dosanjh does it, from what I observed. This is his merch, and from how I see it, my how my mom practices it, because it's almost like for her, it's almost like a Simran. Throughout her day, she's always saying when she'll say Vaheguru and she'll say Shukriya, in her mind or out loud, and even like in interviews that I've seen with Diljit going to his concert. Like he's always like just in a prayer mode, and he's just so grateful when he sees people and just meeting people, and you can just tell it's like very, very genuine. And um that experience for me really kind of opened me up. I mean, I had a moment last week with Niru where I felt so grateful about our marriage that it overwhelmed me, in a good way.
Thank God.
Was gratitude it'd be the wrong way. So but the point is I wanted to bring it up because I think a couple of things that sometimes gratitude, it's interesting when we do an inventory that I have this or I'm grateful for this, but when you're also like grateful about somebody else or a relationship, or it also changes your experience with it. And I also, as this will come up in our talk about like mindfulness of thought, um we're going to get into like negative thought patterns and stuff, is I think in relationships you can also be very critical and harp on like the negative parts of your relationship, but then completely forget or undermine the beauty that you have in a relationship too. So I felt that overwhelmingly last week. And so I'm grateful for what we have. So um, I'll turn it over to mom and dad. Top that.
Go ahead.
That's very nice. Actually, I had a very interesting experience because Supendeep and I talked after the meeting, and he brought up a good point about gratefulness. He said about doing it in the morning, and I said I do it at the end of the day. And I realized I do it at the end of the day. It works great. I'm grateful, but I'm still in the doing mode
Mhm.
instead of in the being mode, which is where we probably all aspire to be. At least I do. And I had great difficulty doing it in the morning.
Mm.
Mm.
I was a little shocked by that. So I'm still working on it. But I had one day that was really, really beautiful, which was your dad asked me to come. And we usually sit on the little deck. He said, no, come downstairs where the lounge chairs are. And because of the coughing business, I'm like, it's going to make me cough. He said, no, just come down and try it. I eventually tried it, and there's something to be said for changing your position, your body position, to get a different perspective
Mm.
or a shift in your perspective. So as I was on my back on the chair, I happened to look up. It was just something shifted for me in a good way. I relaxed completely and I was able to fall asleep in a good way. Kamna, you weren't there at the meeting that when I'd gone to when I was in college, I had gone to a uh, therapy, meditation retreat. And it was a therapist who was doing it. And I raised my hand. I said, always fall asleep when it comes to meditation. He said, you need to be in therapy if you do that. So this was in a good way.
Yeah.
Because I was being present in the moment. There were no thoughts. I was just looking at the sky,
Mm.
and I I was just being at that time.
That's great. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for pointing that out, morning and evening. And I'm going to look at your book, Neil, when I come.
Yeah, sure. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Dad, what about you? How did it go? What did you notice?
Yeah, I was able to do a grateful session, could count some, how many things I was grateful for. And I do my prayer every day, most of the times,
Part.
and I sometimes like to combine a little bit, meditation, before or after, a little bit there. Um, it's all good, I think it's almost like giving time to yourself, a little bit. It's such a nice feeling that you are devoting some time for your own self, doing something. You know what I mean? Like usually we're always, it's a rat race,
Hmm.
and so it's really a nice concept, and I'm glad that I'm doing it.
Great. I'm glad too. And yeah, I mean, I think sometimes this practice, sometimes it can look maybe a little bit selfish at times, but I think scheduling the time for yourself, even a little bit, so that we can show up better for
Yeah.
ourselves
Mm.
and for others is important.
Yeah.
And I like what you said too, Mom, about just noticing shifting that position in your body a little bit and how that changed a little bit, the gratitude practice.
Right.
Mhm. Sorry, what
I
were you
said,
saying?
right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no,
Mm.
so yeah, I wanted to point that out because that might come up a little bit in how we relate to our bodies and mind. Um, so Kamna, how about you? Anything you'd like to bring in? Were you able to practice some gratitude over this past week?
Yeah, it was actually similar to what you said about relationships. And, uh, prior to last week's session, I had kind of not a deep conversation, but just like a kind of peripheral conversation with my two best friends. And they live a very different life than I do. They don't have children. One is single and doesn't have any overhead, and their time is used very differently than my time is, and where I can allocate and where I can prioritize. Like I can't just get up and go to New Orleans. Like they were making a plan to go and they can go. And I like there's like so many things in our lives that take a backseat to what's the most important in the moment, right? And I got a little, I guess, annoyed and like just a little bit upset too. And maybe it was like FOMO, maybe it was like all of these things. Then I got upset that I got upset. And then, I just said to them, I was like, I hope you know that it's not easy. Even if we plan, it's not easy for me just to leave, and like do these things with you. And they said, no, 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 we know, we love you. We just want to involve you. And like, I just left it at that. And I was kind of like in myself, and I was feeling petty because I was, like, and I was getting angry at myself for feeling petty about it, and I think after last week's session, I had a chance to like kind of sit with myself for a little bit and, reevaluate my thought process and where my mind was in terms of that specific situation and them. And I reminded myself like how grateful I am that these two women are in my life and how much of a support they have been for me for 20 plus years, and that my life would not be my life without them. And to remind myself that I am very ecstatic about the things that they do in their life, and I want them to enjoy it to their fullest, and I want them to be present wherever they are, and I am grateful that they can do those things, right? Like it was like a moment of like going down the rabbit hole and then really pulling myself up, and it was nice to know that I could do that and do it pretty quickly, I guess, and not let myself mope, and feel like maybe I used to, right? And yeah, so that's kind of where I was.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's such a honest experience that I think all of us can relate to, Um,
Hold on a second.
I like the layers that you put on top of it, how she said that she caught herself, judging herself for being upset. That's also part of the awareness training of mindfulness. And I sometimes feel I get that way too, right? Where we live different lives, right? And yes, there could be FOMO or there couldn't be or whatever there is, but there's sometimes I try to we change it too, and say like, wow, I'm grateful that at least I got an invite, it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
sometimes, right? It just
And
depends.
and to remind myself that I am genuinely, honestly, genuinely happy for everybody's experiences that they're able to have, right? I may not be able to have it with them, but I'm so grateful that they get to, because how awful is it that you sit back and you just kind of stay static and not do anything and not be anything and not go anywhere, and oh, you get the promotion, or oh, you get to go to this place, and oh, you get to get this, that handbag that you really wanted. I'm so happy that you got it because it makes you happy, and that makes me happy because you were happy, right? And to remind yourself of that, without judgment, because that maybe a year ago would have been me. Now it's just reminding myself that I am that person. And, you know, I can be that person as long as I'm continuously grateful for those things, you know?
Hey, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, and I also like to, before we switch it over to Taj, and said, commend the fact that you're allowing things like there can be room for both. There could be a feeling of missing out and feeling grateful at the same
Yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
uh,
I still felt like I missed out, you know, because it's like, you know, it's like doing something, it's like, you know, doing something without your left hand, right? Like that's how these two people are for me, right? Like they're a part of my body, they're a part of my limb, they're a part of my life, you know? And so when I'm not doing, or when I'm not being a part of that, like I do feel, I'm like, man, I want to be there and I want to do that because they are that to me, right? Um, but
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah, good points. uh Raj, how about you, buddy? How did it go? The gratitude practice? Anything you'd like to share? Um,
Yeah, it was it's funny. I've been like in the ICU, so I've been really behind on like a lot of my emails and texts. So I didn't even see what the homework was, but independently I was actually, you can even ask Sid, I was texting her we should do this thing like when I was I think we started doing it when I lived in Baltimore and I was teaching. Like we would just text each other three grateful things because I really struggled a lot during that time. Just like it was very difficult transition, and the kids dealt with a lot of other things they brought in the classroom, and it's like I had no education background, so it was like you just kind of thrown in there, and then going to school at night, and when you take a step back, it's like there's a lot of people and a lot of things that you have in your life other people will be grateful for. And it's the same thing in med school. Like people are always complaining around you, and it's like if 4 or 5 years ago you'd be like kicking other people to get in this position. So it's been nice to reflect on those like three grateful things every day. So especially in the ICU, it's like um you could have a bad day like with the attending. Like sometimes the attendings are complete, so rude sometimes, and then you're taking care of the patient and it's like they're close to death, and it's like I'm just grateful that I'm able to take care of them. Like forget if they said nice things to me, or they if they were rude to me or whatever. So it kind of just helped me get through some of the moments in the ICU, because it's very can be challenging, but it's definitely a nice way to mom was talking about starting the day or ending the day, but I always try to do it when I drive home. That's been like a nice way to close out the day, and kind of helps close the boundary between work and home as well. So yeah, it was good. And I got Mick doing it as well, so even though he's not here, we've been doing that on the drive home because he's on the same rotation. So yeah.
very nice. So wait,
Yeah.
does he text you the three things or something, or are you guys just
No, we carpool, so
like
we're
carpool?
both in
Oh,
the
that's
ICU, yeah.
nice. You have like
And
an
we're going to the night shift. So I'll have to think a little harder to find three grateful things the next 2 days. Yeah, give it over to Sid here.
Sure.
I think that's 10%.
Hi,
Oh,
how are you guys?
good, good. Yeah, we were
I'm
just
here. Taj is just over there and I'm here.
yeah.
Make fun of me.
Let me put
We're just
the
sitting around and just talking about our gratitude practice, and
Yeah,
I was mentioning how you guys got in a good habit when he was in Baltimore of texting each other. So,
yeah.
yeah, anything
Yeah,
you
we
want to
used to
share
do it
with
every day together. We haven't shared them. Although Taj did text me the other day and said he was grateful for my cooking. And I was like, wow, I'm turning into Mickey Auntie.
us?
And nice to
Yeah.
hear that, Mickey Auntie.
Mickey Auntie,
Um,
Mickey boy.
Snoop, have I told you about the monk manual? I don't know if I've told you about it.
The monk manual?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think so. Possibly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found the monk manual. It's like a daily, weekly, monthly. It's a 90-day planner. And on the daily pages, there's like different, like it's like your schedule and like priorities for the day. and like a to-do list and everything. And then it has the 3 things that I'm grateful for, and then what I'm looking forward to. And then it has how I can give. So like those are like the 3 prompts. And then it has like reflection at the end of the day, which I am guilty of not doing the reflection at the end of the day sometimes because I'm just like ready to stop. But yeah, I do my 3 grateful things, and I write them like as I'm starting my work day, which is helpful because that could be like, I don't know, you're opening up your email in the morning and it could, you know, email isn't always like awesome news. It's a lot of like neutral and annoying stuff. Um, so yeah, I write them down, but I'm always like interested when I see what I wrote down. Like so often it's like my health, like my breath, like time with my family. Like it's I'm very consistent with what I write down. Um, and a lot of times it's like I have a roof over my head, like I have a safe home, like just like stuff, especially like when we go out and like I see the people, even last week we had the dog, so I was like walking the dog outside, and like I guess I didn't like go out as much before we had the dog here, and like there's so many people on the streets here that like don't have a home.
Right.
So it's like stuff like that, like it
Sorry,
really
shut the door.
but yeah, so it went well. I enjoy it. It's a nice part of my day. I'd like to share that more. I think we could do that again.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
grateful my stomach hurt before, and Taj made me this
The
warm
Joanne
water with the
seeds.
Oh
seeds.
wow. That's
Yeah.
great. Hey, quid
It's
pro quo.
crazy, man. Those things make you burp like instantly.
That's funny. Well, one thing I just want to mention that I think both of you guys said before we get into the talk on mindfulness of thought is how you guys kind of created a ritual between creating boundaries, right? Like you started it before you start work. I think that's important, right? Because or yes, work can provide a certain level of stress, anxiety, whatever it might be. And then Dodge created that as a way to separate when he's coming back home from work. So I think those are important. Something, I struggle with and try to find when I'm trying to turn it off. When like Nero can come home and she could still tell, like just from my body language, I'm still stressed. I'm trying to, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I think that when you have like a career that or like you're working such long hours, it's kind of difficult to start the day like that because you like live, breathe, and eat like what you're doing. Like for in med school, it's like in this rotation, the hours are so long, and then you're studying and you're making your application. So it's kind of a like when you do it at the end of the day, I find that I start to enjoy the day more instead of trying to like I think in like business world it's like work and you go home, but it's very difficult in the healthcare and other professions. So I think it helps you kind of enjoy the day more instead of trying to like otherwise you feel like work is taking away from your time, but you can kind of have both if you see it as enjoyable, you know?
Right,
Well,
right.
another thing that I notice when I'm like really, really consistent with the gratitude practice, I tend to notice more like
Mm,
things to be grateful for. Like I think the more that you're thinking about that and that's in your head, like you start to see more of that. And I think that it's the same. I find like if I get in like a negative pattern in my head, I start to see things very negatively, and like, the day can spiral quickly when you're in that pattern. But it's inspiring and like good motivation to like do more of it, even if it's sprinkling it in multiple times a day, because like I do think what you fill your head with, like that is your reality.
I'm just gonna say along those lines, and to what you were saying, Thaj, is that you're right, sometimes the medicine and surgery, it's hard, but I think that exactly what Sid said, like to fill your mind with something to set the day. One thing I like about this journal is it's your daily affirmation. I think if you just have, I think it's always helpful to have like a phrase in your head, like, I'm just trying to, so the phrase at Columbia University at the Medical Center campus is amazing things are happening here. And I
That's where
always
you got that from?
love to see that.
Mm.
Like I can't even tell you, like, you're walking in the streets of Washington Heights and like it's like rundown place, but you're like walking through the hospital and you just see a banner that says amazing things are happening here. And you literally just feel that, like you feel that energy from reading it, you know, and then you believe it. And so told Soup that I wanted to have like an affirmation like that with Sag. And so he says to him before he leaves in the morning, love and light. You're a love and light.
And don't forget who you are. You're
Don't
loving
forget,
light.
yeah, don't forget who you are. You're love and light. And he actually wrote that in his school paper thing, which was so
Oh, it's so cute.
to write that. But then also on my affirmation with him is like, I'm amazing things are happening to me and I'm doing amazing things. So, you know, I think Thaj, if you somehow have whatever it is that your intention is for yourself or for the situation or whatever, having confidence in yourself or nailing down how to put it in a line or something like that, you know, like that you have some sort of affirmation because that sets your intention or fills your head with those things. And then at the end of the day, like you said, you're winding down, and it's sort of you can reflect on that gratitude part of things, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I was gonna say what
I'm so tired, man.
That's all good. All
I
good.
agree with you. I'm just it's just the unfortunate timing of the yawn.
Well, why don't we make it even better and get into a guided meditation? But I'll before we do that, I'm gonna get into the talk first. So
Oh,
don't make
man.
yourself too comfortable right now.
Okay.
So let me just pull up my handout here. I meant to send this to everybody. Let me try to share my screen. I'll send this to everybody afterwards. You guys are having your own
Wait,
side chatter right
no, I
now.
have to read what Thas said. Don't forget your love and light, and don't forget your bus stop.
You need to add that part on for Sag, bro.
Oh my God, Thad, you're so funny.
Can you guys see my screen now?
yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
You need your glasses.
Yeah. Let me see.
So this is the third class, and we've had a succession of talks, right? We started on the body, we went into motions and feelings, and today is about thought. And you know, I kind of explained last week how the hierarchy, how we even as we develop as beings, right? We start off sensing the world with our bodies, and then we're given before we can even communicate in thought, we sense the world as young children through feelings, right? So in kind of preparing this talk or my previous talks on mindfulness of thought, I went into the Oxford Dictionary and said, okay, well, what is the actual definition of thought? And according to the dictionary, it says it's an idea or opinion produced by thinking or occurring suddenly in the mind. And I highlighted suddenly there for a reason. And what is mindfulness? And you know, I gave a definition last week, and but one of my favorite definitions is this one here, which it says a spacious, kind, curious, non-judgmental, embodied, loving awareness of the present here and now. And each of those things are just fundamental qualities of mindfulness. We talked a little bit about spaciousness last week, but non-judgmental. We talked about that. I think Amna was saying about not judging ourselves. That's also very, very important in mindfulness. So kind of bringing it all together. John Kabat-Zinn, I might have mentioned this in our previous talks. He created this program. It's an 8-week program called mindfulness-based stress reduction, and he created it like in their like 1979, actually the year I was born, and he he created this as he was helping when he was in med school. He was helping some of his elderly patients dealing with chronic pain as a way. He had been a lifetime practitioner of yoga, and he saw that bringing mindfulness can actually help them be spacious and be with their pain in a way that changed their relationship to it. And then we found that that can actually transfer to the emotional pain that some of us also feel and suffering that we feel. So his kind of bringing that definition of thought, mindfulness together, his definition brings it in perfectly well, which is paying attention in a particular way on purpose in the present and not judgmentally. Um, and it's truly that, like I mentioned that sudden part, right? Like thoughts just happen, like on their own, right? We think that we have so much control on it, and it's just sudden, right? Yes, certain thoughts kind of wire together, but if we can just notice those sudden changes and transitions from one thought or type of thinking pattern to another without any judgment, that's really like the practice of mindfulness. And being aware of it. And if we can become aware of, I think even Sid was saying this, kind of like our habituated patterns of thinking, we can learn how to change our relationship to it as well. And so what I have here are 7 different kind of strategies that I have worked for me and have come up in our mindfulness talks on, I put in here quotation marks, troublesome thoughts, because I'm trying not to be judging, right? And allowing everything to be here. But obviously there's times when it gets hard with our mind and our thoughts. So the first thing that I put up here is kind of really just respecting and bowing down to our minds and to thought in general. There's this one of our favorite kind of quotes that comes up in this mindfulness space is a quote from the Buddha that says, "Who is your enemy? Mind is your enemy. No one can harm no one can harm you more than the mind untrained. Who is your friend? Mind is your friend. No one can assist or care for you better than a well-trained mind, not even the most loving mother or parent." So really like knowing that this mind is this incredible mechanism that can kind of create friendship and war with ourselves. It's in some ways I just respect it for what it is. Um, and also kind of bowing down to it, the fact that, you know, we mind and has created so much, right? Something that starts as an idea gets manifest into something like self-driving cars, medicine that we have. There's so much that our mind has helped us contribute to society and to the world. It's helped us create governments. I mean, some of those governments we may not like so much, um, but we also know that it can also destroy our kind of like self-worth if we get into that spiraling place. Um, there's this other quote that comes up here at the bottom by another um, mindfulness teacher called Kensei Rinpoche, which says, "Mind creates both samsara and nirvana, yet there's nothing much to it. It is just thoughts." And thoughts are very peculiar because like they're real, but they're not real, right? It shapes so much of what we do in our life, but it's nothing tangible like this body, right? It's nothing, we can feel and touch or sense, but it guides so much of what we do. Um, And the second part, not personalizing thoughts, is actually something that mom has really kind of taught me. I know she had me do this exercise with her where she would try to get me to think my next thought, right? And if any of us, if we just pause and try to do that, it's virtually impossible for you to think your next thought, right? It's we think we have control of it, but it's really hard. And if we can't personalize, or if we can't have our own next thought, why should we personalize them? It just We can view it as something that's kind of natural, right? um that the mind kind of just like secretes thoughts, just like how your body breathes on its own. You sweat on your own, right? um so kind of having that idea that we have no control of it and not personalizing it, it makes it easier not to judge them if we see it as something natural. Um, And then the third point I have here is kind of like recognizing our top 10 kind of playlist. You know, this can, there's a saying that 90% of the thoughts that we have are kind of recurrent thoughts, right? They just kind of show up differently in different orders uh, throughout the day or throughout the week. But if we sometimes just writing down, okay, this is my um, thought around fear or my thought around having imposter syndrome or whatever it is, sometimes it helps if you can label it, it's easier to unravel it and to um, kind of be with it. If you can see it, and it kind of sometimes it takes the power out of it where you're so caught up in that narrative in your mind. But when you're kind of like, okay, hey, I wrote this top 10 playlist here, it kind of helps take the power from it, that it's okay, these are just words on a paper right now. Um, and that brings me to the fourth point, like kind of challenging. If you know what are some recurrent things that come up in your mind, you can also challenge it. They are limiting, right? Because it prevents you from truly flourishing. So maybe what I'll do a brief little exercise with you here. Um, Maybe just take a second to, close our eyes, and maybe we can sense something that comes up for you that's troublesome or negative or repetitive. It could be something from today, something from the week, something that burdens you at times. And maybe you have an idea of that, try to sense where you might even feel it in your body. And as you're thinking about this thought pattern, for a moment, think about what it would feel like to not be burdened by that thought pattern. What would you believe or what would you feel if you didn't think that negative thought pattern? Now, with this, most people will say this exercise that you kind of feel, if you don't believe that, you feel a sense of liberation, right? You feel a sense of ease, right? You feel it relax out of your body. Your body posture might even change. Um, and this is in a way how we can challenge and feel liberated from those negative thought patterns. And I might also add, going back to my first point about bowing down to the mind, doing this exercise, it was actually your mind that helped you do that to feel that sense of liberation and freedom from that negative thought pattern. I'll pause here. I don't know if anybody has any questions or thoughts or something they would like to share. Okay, now we can go ahead and proceed. We talked about, Governor, were you going to say something? Oh, you just grabbing water. Okay. So yeah, we talked about gratitude, and I bring this up here too as a way. Sid kind of mentioned this a little bit. How about how, sometimes when you're getting in those thought patterns, I've noticed myself, if I'm getting so critical or negative, if I can change it a little bit or feel some gratitude towards the situation, it helps me not be trapped by that pattern of thinking that I have. It could, sometimes it looks like as my day starts, I could be like, oh, I'm worried about sending out this email. I gotta pay this bill. But then if I can be like, wow, I'm grateful that I can actually pay this bill, that I have a house that I have to take care of, rather than feeling burdened by that.
I was going to say, since we started doing this gratitude business, it helped me. Actually, I'm looking at my notes. It's, how should I put it? It's freed my energy. That's what I want to say. So there's a lot of positive stuff happening. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have any words for it. Like, I know stuff happens and, you know, every day is different, every week is different. But I feel like there's a momentum.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it happened very fast for me because I think I was really ready to do this.
Yeah, no, thanks, Mom. I mean, I think it's like it's getting into you you kind of said like liberating. It's freeing up, right? Because I think sometimes those troublesome thoughts or patterns that we have can be so heavy and can, feel so burdensome, and having something that negates it frees you from that, like gratitude. It releases you from it a bit.
Yep.
So, um, and yes, the step six, not step six, these are not steps at all. These are just strategies, is stepping out or below the thinking, this has come up before. We get lost in a trance of thinking, right? And sometimes just bringing the awareness that, hey, oh God, I got stuck in one of my traps again, and to step out of it and behind it, kind of. Um, I do it as more as an imaginary thing, like just getting out of my mind and into my body almost. It helps me just um, release myself from it, um, from that prison, that I was mentioning. Um, One of my like favorite stories that comes up that Tara Brock actually mentioned. She's one of the main instructors in this program that I'm in. She shared a story about this little kid was sharing with her mom, saying, "Mommy, what would you do if you were surrounded by 10 ferocious lions?" And mother was just thinking about it and visibly getting anxious and worried, like, I do, like, I don't know, like, and then she's like, I don't know, what would I do, right? And then the kid just replied, stop imagining the lions, right? So there's all this stuff. There's no lines at all. We are designed. It's part of our DNA to sense fear, right? It's what's kept us alive as a species. But sometimes most of us are pretty secure for the most part, right? And then we create these lines in our mind that we just have to kind of step out of it. Um, this quote here by an author named Oren J. Soffer says, when you become aware of the prisons of your mind's habits, those habituated patterns, you can transform them. Awareness, it's awareness comes up so often, right? That's the first step. It truly is, and it's coming back again and again to it. And lastly, one strategy that works for me too is just really just remembering our essence, that we're more than our minds. This gets into that whole conversation with Saj is, okay, you're more than just your mind, right? There's a part of our composition, but we are also a soul, we're a body, we're a spirit, we're loving awareness. There's so much that we have. Um, and sometimes it's good to know our essence, that we're more than that, so that when the mind does get troublesome, we can step into, as I was mentioning, back into our body. And just understanding the relationship of kind of going back and forth. There's this, my mom will send me quotes, in the morning, and she sent me this one here that says, the only two things we really need are a healthy body and a calm soul. And I replied to her, I was like, yeah, I agree with you. And I was like, if we have those, we probably have a quiet mind, right? So oftentimes if our mind is too busy, we step in our body. And sometimes if our bodies are giving us a hard time, which they inevitably do, maybe we can step in and use our mind to do a guided meditation or something to release us from some of that, what are ailments of our body. So, wow, I didn't realize it's 9 o'clock, guys. So why don't we, I think, do you guys want to take a quick break and then we do the guided meditation? Or should we just go straight into it? What do you think?
We can just go into it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Let's just go into it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right, then. Yeah, let's do that then. So please go ahead and continue to get yourself into a comfortable position, either seated on the ground or in your seat. And make yourself feel comfortable and relatively still. But find a posture that helps you be both alert and at ease. And just kind of feeling your connection through your points of contact to this earth, to this ground, and just feel it supporting you. Now take a few moments to invite relaxation with a brief body scan. And we're going to kind of start from our top of our head and work ourselves through our body. And it feels comfortable, maybe bring some type of warm, loving presence. It could be colorless, it could be whatever feels warm to you. For me, oftentimes I imagine an orange kind of sun-like feeling as I was scanned through my body. So starting with your head, just relax your forehead, relax your eyes, relax any muscle in your face, your cheeks, feeling that warmth around your lips and your mouth. And slowly feel that energy move into your neck, relaxing your neck. Feeling a warm, loving presence from your neck into your shoulders. And slowly feel this warmth flow into your arms, into your fingers. And feel that warmth into your torso, feeling it through your breath. Feeling your chest rise and fall. And scanning that warmth into your belly. And bringing that awareness and loving presence into your hips, into the pelvis area. And feeling that warmth go down through into your legs, feeling up your toes, into your calves, your knees, all the way into your hips. And for a moment, just feel the complete embodiment from your toes to your head of that loving presence and warmth. Now take a few deep breaths. And as you breathe in a sense of calming energy and releasing it with your exhale. Just letting go with your exhale. Bringing in, inhaling calming, and letting go with the exhale. And now let your breath find its own natural rhythm. Let the breath breathe you. And rest your attention on your breath. How do you know that you're breathing? where in the body do you feel it most clearly? You may notice the breath coming in and going out of your nostrils or through your mouth. Or you might feel the rise and fall of your abdomen. Or you might simply be aware of your whole body sitting and breathing. And each time your mind wanders, just gently return to the breath or any other primary object you use without any judgment for having drifted off. Now allow the awareness to open up to other experiences that you may occur. If sensations arise, be aware of them with the same non-judging attitude. If sound calls for your attention, become aware of your hearing. Or if emotions become strong, notice them with kindness and compassion. And now we can include the thought process itself as a part of this meditation field. When you realize you've been thinking, instead of feeling frustrated or discouraged, appreciate that you've just become aware of your thinking. And once again, when you become aware that this is an opportunity to be present, bring your attention back to the fact that you're sitting here and breathing. It's important to bring this practice of labeling our thinking with patience, kindness, and the intention to start once again every time we notice our mind wanders. Each time you notice the mind wandering, you strengthen your ability to be in the present and developing a wise relationship to your mind. You may find it helpful to softly name the experience of thinking with a very gentle, non-judging tone. Thinking, thinking. Simply knowing that the process of thinking is happening. There's no need to get lost in the content of that thinking. Just by noticing thinking without getting lost in its stories, you're not feeding thoughts, and they often dissolve on their own. Don't try to get rid of them. That very effort might make them stronger. Or don't try to figure out why a thought came, or be concerned about how long it's here. As soon as you become aware, you are here again. And then return to the breath or any actual experience in the moment. If you notice different themes or repetitive patterns of thought, like planning, remembering, worrying, or wanting, Name them in a very kind, non-judgmental way. Planning, worrying, or whatever's here. And if it's not apparent, don't struggle to find the right word. You can just name it thinking. Thinking is fine. Repetitive thoughts are sometimes fueled by emotions underneath them. And if a thought pattern keeps arising or emotion, you might ask, what am I feeling now? In a very curious, non judging way. You might bring a mindful attention or awareness to that feeling. Otherwise, each time you become aware of thinking, acknowledge it and appreciate that you become aware and are back in the present. It doesn't matter how many times you wander, each time you become aware of thinking and can return to the present with patience and kindness is a liberating moment of mindfulness. Continue noticing, labeling your thinking, coming back into your body or your breath. In these final moments, slowly bring your attention back into the room, to the Zoom call, to each other, and thank yourself in whatever way feels comfortable for doing this practice together and for yourself. Feels comfortable, take a stretch. And welcome you all back. Thank you so much. So it's about 9:13 here. I don't know. I was gonna say we could take a break, but maybe we could stretch together. If you need to go to the bathroom, please by all means go. But I think we could just go around and just check in and see how that experience was of doing this talk or doing this guided meditation and any thoughts on mindfulness of thought. Um, your
It
heart,
was great.
yeah. Why don't you go ahead
Yeah.
first? Yeah, what did you notice? What did you think?
I mean, like you do a pretty detailed, I mean, I've some of the words you use that I have not heard, and I mean, I think it's quite, it's something more than we're used to, and it's nice, you know.
Yeah,
It's the longer version of what we're used to doing.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue these are all words you know. It's just in the sequence that they might be presented. So
Right. No, I think it's very appropriate, and the whole thing put together is really very meaningful.
yeah,
Mm.
thank you. Appreciate that. Mom, how about you?
I was noticing that my mind was wandering a little bit, but
The coughing.
I kept wanting to put my head back, and I can't do it because it makes me cough. You guys didn't hear me cough, right?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, good. So that disturbed me a little bit because it just needed to do that, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And this is gonna sound funny again. Oh my God. I kept thinking of Axel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because he's the best man, I'm telling you.
He's not a man, he's an animal.
He's a
I
sentient
mean,
being.
if you watch children and animals, they're really present, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like him and Saj are best examples. And that helped me actually feel uh, like get into it and relax while you were speaking.
Yeah. That's great. You know, next week we're going to be talking about loving kindness and wise heart. And something that we often do is we try to invoke it ourselves. If not, sometimes we think of other beings that embody that. So it could be an animal, it could be a loved one, a child, people who were in our lives and not be. So yeah, so we'll bring Axel into the mix next week. um, what about you? You, Kamna, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I think it's always been very hard for me to stay, very focused during meditation, right? When we were going to the mindful guided meditations, that I hadn't done many before that, and that those really helped. And if you continuously do it, right, like those 10 words, creating a habit, having that playlist, like you say, right? I think that's how do I put it? I think it's super important that, if we continue down doing meditation like this, right, then we create the habit. And then those words that come at us and those thoughts that come at us, they're easier to just maybe not push away, but to the side, so yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a practice, right? You know, to become more aware of it, right?
Yeah.
It's and mindfulness, I will say it's not about, being emptying your mind, even though sometimes it feels like it's emptying your mind because it slows down the mind, but it's really also being aware of when those thoughts come up, right? So it's just practicing it over and over again. So every moment is an opportunity to practice. So what about you?
Yeah, I feel definitely that it helps to slow down the mind for sure. I think for me it's hard because your voice is so relaxing, then I just want to like
You
there's
do
like
seem much more chill. Not that you were, you seem it's
yeah.
the end of the day too, so I
Yeah.
know it's tough.
But if what's interesting is that like first, there's a balance between like calming the mind, relaxing the mind, thinking about nothing, like mom, you were saying. And at one point I was like not even listening to what you were saying because that's like I
Yeah,
was like zoned out a little bit,
right.
but I wasn't necessarily distracted by thoughts, but I mean, I think that's the point of it, right? To guide you into a meditative state, right? Even though I was like, wait, I'm not even paying attention to what you're saying anymore. Let me
Yeah.
go back to it so I can at least follow the guide.
But it's more like the body recognizing the tones and the sounds and the feeling, and then how that connects to you and your body and where you are, right? And then it's like you said, like the thoughts aren't there because the mind is still,
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say something else too. I just forgot.
Sorry, I interrupted.
Well, it
That's
was,
okay.
and in all of the guided meditations so far, I had this really interesting experience where like I'm like, I'm calm, I'm like, everything is still, but then I'll get energized in the middle of it. And
Really?
it's not that your voice is changing,
Mm.
but sometimes at some point I'll be like, oh, I feel really energized. And then I'll sort of go back to, I don't know what that is. I'm not thinking about anything, but I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very
I,
curious.
I experience similarly. And actually, I was going to say, when I hear a great piece of music, or if I'm doing art, or if I'm looking at um, beauty in nature or a flower, like you get on cruise, you get in the flow.
Mm.
And especially with music, it goes very fast for me. Like within a minute, I'm there, less than a minute.
Yeah. I think for Supendeep's mom, it's similar with flowers and nature, or, I'll just hear her say, like, that is beautiful, like in her words, like she just takes it in like that, and it becomes, like meditative almost.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, you can enter that flow state through a variety of things, I feel like,
Yeah, I feel like you don't have to use your mind all the time. You can get to that state through other means, whether it be nature or something you enjoy doing, or music or art. It just really facilitates the process faster. At least for me, it does.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Dodge, are you there by chance? I don't know. Maybe you were yawning earlier. If you're
You
there,
might have fallen asleep.
yeah. Yeah, poor guy.
No, sorry, we're just working on some stuff. We had to just figure something out with the wedding invites.
Yeah.
I'm very glad, buddy, you're working on it, both
No,
of you.
I'm supposed to be, I'm being mindful and working on it at the same time.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a first mindful wedding.
Kamna's laughing.
That's
Hey.
yeah.
Not
But she's still on your side.
Um, well, hey, I really do appreciate you, Taj and Sid, for I know you guys are busy, and we're all busy in our own right. So taking the time to come here today. This is the conversations earlier that we had about gratitude, and it's informative. I learned so much from everybody. And
Thank you for doing it, buddy.
yeah, no, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank you, man.
my guinea pigs. And yeah, I think I'll can let everybody go a little bit early, but so next week will be the last session, and we'll be getting into loving kindness. And it's an incredible experience. Like I actually, these guided meditations I do, I like them and I don't like them, right? Because I feel like, you were saying you kind of got lost, and you gotta get in the trance, and that's your own experience and everybody's own experience. But I don't actually like giving so many instructions. When I do meditations I like to slowly just notice things, right? And so that in itself is an experience. But the loving kindness is a very interesting meditation to do, because it opens up kind of like just some inherent dimensions that we all have inside of us, and it's really getting into the heart mind, that wise heart that we have. I learned something new. One of my good friends just had a baby boy, and he was telling me that in his experience, that he just learned that the heart, I mean, it sounds so simple, but the heart develops like first, right? Even before some other parts of our body. So there's an intuition that's guiding us right in the womb, from the very beginning. And just knowing that just kind of helped me like step out of this kind of mind and in this mind more to help guide us more. And I hope to touch that upon that next week. Um, so in preparation for that, I think some of the homework I'll send it to the group too, is, I had all of us kind of mindfully pause, so I would suggest doing the same thing. Take a moment whenever it's convenient for you. It could be in the morning, during your day, or night, just to pause. And when you do that mindful pause, bring some type of just loving presence, however that love feels for you. That's my homework for you guys. So thank you. Any questions, any comments before I let everybody go happy napping?
Thanks, Soup, for doing this.
Thank you guys. This was great.
Thank you. So,
Yeah, thank you so much.
bye.
Dad's already sleeping.
Yeah,
And don't forget your bus stop, okay?
Yeah.
Don't forget your bus stop.
Excuse me, I need to get off the bus.
Yeah.
Maddie, how you say
Like,
that
excuse
again?
me.
How you say that again?
Yeah,
How do you
so-
say that again?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, be well. All right,
guys.
Kamna. Take care.
Night,
Good to
guys.
see you all.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Nice seeing
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Nice seeing you,
Thank you.
Kamna.
Bye.
Bye.